Welcome back. In this video, we are going to create a geodecoder which basically converts from a latitude and longitude into an address, a humanly readable address. Because if somebody gives you a latitude and longitude and you are not a specialist in navigation or whatever, you will be totally lost with this information. What you want instead is the address of that latitude and longitude of that GPS location. And that's what we're going to build in this video. So let's go ahead and go over to our location utils, because that's where I want to set up this function. So we have this function request location updates, has location permission, and now we're going to create another function called reverse geocode location. Okay, and it requires a location of type location data. So it basically requires the latitude and longitude, and it will return a string, which will basically be the name of the address, or the address in terms of text. So we need a geocoder for that, which is of type geocoder, which is inside of Android location. So let's use that geocoder, and let's create a geocoder object. Now this geocoder object needs a context, and we need to import it. Let's see. Okay, it's not happy with that because I wrote the C incorrect. So we're going to use this geocoder, and let's import this class. We need to pass the context as well as the locale that we want to use. So the locale is basically how do you write the address, so to speak. Okay. And I'm just going to use get default, which should be English or the language of our phone, so to speak. But you can also force it to be a specific locale. So you saw that where you could use the Canada, USA, China, and so forth. You can force it, but I'm just going to use the get default, which gets us the default of the settings of the phone. Or actually, let me actually see. Fetching documentation. Not very promising. The instance of the Java virtual machine, the default location, well, you can't read it, and I don't know why it is so slow, but it's probably just because there are too many things going on for this instance of the Java virtual machine. All right, so from my understanding, it should be the default language settings, so to speak. And then I need to get the coordinates, which will be of type lat long. So lat long is latitude and longitude, which we need to add a dependency and import it for. And therefore I'm going to add this Android Maps Play services. So the Gradle again is syncing. And if we check our Gradle, we will see that the Play services maps has been added. That's latitude and longitude. So here we can pass the location dot latitude and the location dot longitude. So dot latitude and location dot longitude, and these will be the coordinates. And now we need to convert that into an address. So this will be a mutable list of addresses. So why do we use a mutable list of address? And I needed to import address, by the way, which is this Android location address here. Why do I use a list? Well, because it can be multiple addresses that fit to a certain location, which is why it is storing it inside of a list. And we're using a mutable list so that it's something that can be changed, so to speak. So this mutable list of addresses that can be either there is an address, or there is multiple addresses, or there is no address at all. So the address is nullable, which means that maybe we have a latitude and longitude where there is no address there. It's basically in the middle of nowhere. Then you want your application not to crash, which is why we have this nullable here. And we're going to use our geocoder, which we set up earlier, to then get from location. And you see get from location needs the latitude and the longitude, and also the max results and potentially a listener, so a geocode listener, so to speak. So let's give it the latitude and longitude and the max results. So I'm gonna say coordinate dot latitude and coordinates dot longitude, and then comma the maximum amount, I'm going to say one result. Let me put that into a separate line like so. Max results will be 1. And I just realized that not the address itself has to be a nullable, but the list itself can be a nullable. Okay, so the list could be empty, not the address itself. And now you see I get this thing where it says this get from location is crossed through, where it says it's deprecated. So it is an old school method. So it's a Java method, but the newer version is a little too complicated. So this one still does the trick. Okay, so even though it is crossed through, it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It still works and it does what we want it to do. So don't be worried about it being a deprecated method. That's totally fine in this context. All right, and then we can return the results. I'm going to check if address, and actually I said it is a list, so let's call it addresses. Okay, because it will be a plural here. So if addresses is not empty, is true, then use addresses at the first position. So add index 0 and get the address line at index 0. So what I'm saying here, and else say address not found. So basically what we're doing is we're setting up a geocoder with the current context and with whatever local settings we have. Then we get the coordinates as latitude and longitude. And this is the location latitude, location longitude, basically our location data object. Then we load the addresses as a mutable list, so a list that can be changed, that holds address types, but can be empty. And the address type is something we imported. And then we set that as being, while using our geodecoder and getting from the coordinate latitude as well as coordinate longitude, one result. Then we're checking if the address is not empty, so this nullable list, which has this question mark, that's why we need to add that question mark here. The list is a nullable. If it's not empty, so if not empty is equal true, then get the first address inside of the addresses list. And otherwise say address not found. Okay, because we're in the middle of nowhere. Now, where do we use that? Well, let's go over to our main activity, and inside of our location display, I'm going to create a new variable val address, which will be location let, and that's where we're going to use our location utils dot reverse geocode location with the location. Okay, so basically we're saying, hey, give me the address. Where do we get it from? We get it from the location. And then we're going to unpack the location with this let. We get the location data. Now we're calling the location utils to call our method reverse geocode location, which is this method that we just set up, right? And this will return a string. So we're basically saying, give me that string and set that as the address. Okay, so that's what's going to happen in this line. And then this address we can finally use, and instead of displaying the latitude and longitude, we could display the address. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a, not in here, but a \n, which will give me a new line, and I'm going to use the address here, like so. So let me rerun my application and see where we are on the map. And get location. We should get latitude and longitude. And there we are. Yeah, it took a little while, but yeah, we see address, and yeah, it's moving. Universitätsstraße 3 in Köln, Germany. So currently we're moving, so let's get the location again, because this text here is not updating consistently, right? So the address itself is updating, but not the, well, the latitude and longitude are updating, but our address is not updating, which is fine. We don't need that necessarily to happen, but now you know how you can play around with that. So if you want to get more details, you can actually, let's get back into the app. You can actually open up your details here. So here I need to go to single points, and here let's say we are in the Kerpener Straße. Let's put that, save that point as the location. Click on OK, set location, and now rerun, or let's run this once again, and it says Kerpener Straße 97. So there we are. We have the latitude as well as the actual address. So we build a decoder that takes the latitude and makes an address out of it. So that is pretty much what you need to know about locations. Now that we have locations, we can display our location on Google Maps, and that's what we're going to set up tomorrow. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the summary.